Did you download YOYO TV app? No? Then go and download from your Play Store, where you will get news and entertainment masala. So go, hurry up and download it, YOYO TV app.
The common discussion which is going on is again about the refugees, and we being celebrities, we get these questions asked, and this is the most conflicting question ever, because as a nation, being a part of this country and knowing that so many of us don't even have access to food, education, electricity, absorbing more people into our population clearly isn't a good idea, but denying those people seems even worse. So what should be, like, again, where does spirituality comes here? Like, what part does it play? And what happens to inclusiveness when such a thing happens?
You're picking on my yoga definition.
No. No, like I clearly know that this is the worst thing to do right now, because they are coming in millions and millions and millions, where our own are starving. So it's like saying that I let my own child die, but I save the neighbor's one. So, I mean, what sort of negotiation is that?
If that was the intent, I would bow down to such people. I will let my own child, but I'll save your child. I will bow down to such people if they exist. But that's not the thing. We are trying to project our inefficiency as compassion. I don't like that. We don't know how to man our borders, but we are talking about compassion. That's not the truth. We're just projecting our inefficiency as some kind of a great value. There's no value to that. So, talking about influx of people from outside, see, when somebody comes to the nation's door because they are violently persecuted somewhere, we should treat it differently. After all, they are human beings. But for economic well-being, people are daily porous borders, people are going across here and there. We need to do something about it. If we don't do anything about it, we will be stupid, because you cannot run a nation without knowing how many people and who is in this country. We cannot run a country like that. First of all, we must understand, I am not for nationhood if you ask me. It would be fantastic if we live as one world, but we are nowhere near that possibility, okay? We are nowhere near that possibility. Right now, the best way to address humanity, and the largest segment of humanity that you can address right now, is a nation. So nationhood is right now very important and a practical solution for humanity as a whole. In the making of a nation, one of the most basic ingredients is the sovereignty or the physical, geographical peace that we call a nation. In this, there may be culture, there may be language, there may be religion, there may be everything else, economics, everything is secondary. First and foremost thing is, there is a piece of geography which we call as a nation. Now, if you're talking about inclusion, you're right now talking about India, Bangladesh, well, you know, we became two nations or three nations. We became two nations in 1947, we became three nations in 71. So some people think we can make ourselves into another four or five or six. No, I think we must stop this nonsense now, because people who are talking this do not know the suffering that happened in 1947-48. There are still… I'm sure in this hall there are many people whose parents walked across the border and came at one time. What they have gone through, what they have left behind, the sufferings and the pain, and the nearly 600,000 people who died, and about 2 to 3 million people who migrated from this side and that side. In both sides of the border, after 70 years, second generation of people still are not settled. Many of them are still living like refugees. When this has happened, talking about one more partition is a stupid and the dumbest thing to do. We should not talk about that. Now about the porous borders between India and Bangladesh, well, we've largely sealed India and Pakistan, isn't it? Why? Because they're coming across with guns. Here they're just coming for livelihood. So if they come, we can always… if people come to work, we can give them work permits. They can work here and go back when they want to, as people from Bengal are coming to South India, working for 2-3 months and going back. Similarly, they can also come and go, you can have some kind of a loose structure. But if you just allow people and give them ration cards and identity cards simply without any accounting, this is going to be a disaster. This will lead to all kinds of problems in future. You cannot run a nation without knowing who is in this country. If somebody wants to come, come into this nation, they must come through the front door. They must ask for immigration and come through the front door. We must have a system for that. We must have a system for that. How can people knock on the country's door and come inside? Not slip in from wherever they want and be wherever they want. That's not going to work. For nobody it's going to work. We have to take steps on that.
It can work for a few politicians.
Unfortunately, nation's interests are being sacrificed for personal ambitions. That is there in this country, what to do?
But it still is a very conflicting thing because…
See, if you want to be really inclusive, we can make the two countries into one. Yes. We can make Bangladesh into a union territory and make it a part of this country, then everybody can go across, like you come from Pondicherry or anywhere else, like that you can go where you want. Are you ready for that? If you're ready for that, I think India is ready for that. If you talk about inclusiveness, that's a way to include, isn't it? Not slipping into my house from the back door and saying, include me, it's not going to work.
Okay, now we'll move to your favorite topic.
What is that? I didn't know you figured out all those things.
Okay, now we move to Shiva.
Oh.
So Shiva is what I got from reading about it and doing my practices and spending time with you. Shiva is not somebody looking, like sitting up there and looking at all of us. Shiva is a dimension. It is what they say in science, a black hole where nothingness seems to be the origin of universe, where everything seems to be coming out of nothingness and being swallowed into nothingness. That very nothingness is Shiva. So anybody who accesses that dimension, if you access that, you become Shiva. If I tap into that, I can become Shiva. But okay, tell me that so Adi Yogi, the very first yogi, was somebody who has access to that dimension. So why is it that you are obsessed with Adi Yogi? Isn't it like making it about the container and not the contained? Sadhguru, isn't it like that? Like you only talk about Adi Yogi. It's like Adi Yogi is the container.
Till now I've not said a word about him. You brought him.
No, but you've made the sculpture of Adi Yogi and you…
Yeah, it's only 1.5 years old, but you're not checking what I was doing these 36 years. Let's come to that, that's fine. See, about Adi Yogi is not an obsession, or the Adi Yogi is a plan. I should not… Mumbai is not…
No, reveal it.
Mumbai is not the best place to reveal it, but now that you asked…
So judgmental.
Let's go. That's her next movie, she's promoting it. Everybody must watch this Mental and Manikarnika, everything, okay? I'm promoting it so that… So, you talked about nothing. We must understand this nothing. English language has certain limitations on these aspects, but we can… because we are speaking that language, we can manipulate it a little bit. If you want to understand nothing, you must put a hyphen between no and thing. It's not a thing. That doesn't mean it does not exist. This would have been a ridiculous statement for the Western minds. I'm saying Western minds because all of us are Western educated. Maybe we're living in India, we've born in India, grown up in India, but we're all Western educated. For a Western mind, this would be a ridiculous idea. Of a couple of decades or maybe 3 decades ago, it would have been so. But now, science is talking about no things. That means non-physical dimension of existence, something that is not a thing, but still a powerful force. When I say something that's not a thing, we are not talking about nuclear energy, we are not talking about, electrical energy or magnetism or anything. Simply nothingness is tremendously powerful. Today they're calling it, black existence or dark power. or many things are being used. So essentially, you're talking about a dimension which is the source of something. Now this is something, everything here is something. But this has come from all that we call as nothing because it's not a physical form. A physical form, in essence, means a certain defined boundary. You call this a physical body because this is a defined boundary. If there is no defined boundary, this cannot be physical. So when we said yoga, this union that you're… inclusiveness you're poking at me is essentially that you transcended your physical nature, so you are not a something anymore. Once you're not a something, there is no defined boundary for you. Once there is no defined boundary for you, union is the only way you can exist, there is no other way to exist. This is not just a concept, this is a living experience, this is the reality of the cosmos. That if you look up in the sky, even a little child looks up in the sky, you will count stars. Maybe there are millions and billions of stars out there, but still, all the stars put together, they do not occupy even 1% of the space out there, isn't it? But nobody pays attention to that space, that is nothing. So this 99% or more, 99.9% is vast nothingness in this few specks of something. But your attention is only there simply because your visual apparatus are made like that. You're not able to grasp what is not there. You only see whatever stops light, in the sense you're able to see this hand simply because it's stopping light and reflecting. So your ability to see is always limited to whatever stops light. See, right now we are sitting here, our microphone, our light, everything is important, but the most important thing is the air that we're breathing for our existence right now. But we cannot see it. Does it mean to say we can do without it? So that which you cannot see, that which you cannot touch, that which you cannot perceive through five sense organs, that is called a no-thing or a nothing. That's called Shiva. Shiva means that which is not. Now, if somebody begins to experience that as a living experience, we refer to him also as Shiva. But somebody who's not experienced it, we refer to him also. Half the people in this country at one time were named after Shiva. That is all the men, I'm saying. Ladies were Shiva, Shivangi, Shiva this, Shiva that, or Parvati, Gauri, this one, that one. Why this was so is constant reminder that you need to look beyond what is there in front of you. This physical form of being a man or a woman or this person I like, this person I don't like, beyond this, when I call him Shiva, now I cannot say I like him or dislike him. When your name is Shiva, you claimed already you're Shiva, when your name is Shiva, when I call you Shiva, I cannot call Shiva angrily, I cannot do something. It's a kind of a control over yourself, that you cannot abuse somebody. You cannot say, hey Shiva, you're this and that. You can only say Shiva. So we created a culture like this where constant reminder, wherever you look. We even called our dog Shiva. Yes, we never thought it's an insult because he's as much alive as you are. We called… if you see a tree, we say Shiva, if we see a rock, we say Shiva, if we see a bird, we say Shiva, simply because the source of all that exists here as physical stuff essentially comes from that which is not a thing or no thing or Shiva. So, this is why this talk about third eye and people think their forehead is going to crack and something is going to pop out. Nothing like that. These two eyes can show you only that which stops light. The day you start seeing things which do not stop light, then we say, you have one more eye going. You have an inner eye which is able to see something that these two eyes cannot see. So third eye does not mean forehead cracking up and you becoming some kind of a freako. That means your clarity has opened up, that you're able to see beyond the limitations of senses.
So all the enlightened people who've been…
How many did you meet?
Like I've heard about many, like say Krishna or Muhammad or Ram or Christ, Buddha, all the enlightened people who've been on this planet, there is some sort of mention of their birth or death. But when it comes to Shiva, like you say, and I've read that he was self-created, and I often ask you this question, that did he disappear into thin air, and apparently something like that happened. He couldn't even have biological children with any of the women he was married to. Also,
At least you can't blame him for the population.
Sadhguru, I'm coming to something very important. There is a theory.
I thought population was very important
No.
too.
There is a theory that Shiva is alien.
See, till now you've been talking about inclusiveness and suddenly you call somebody an alien.
No, Sadhguru, there is a theory.
I must tell you this. Every time I enter United States, at the immigration, I end up standing in that line which says, resident alien. I look around and see I'm the only one who fits the description.
Sadhguru, let me finish this question. So there is this theory that…
She won't let you go on.
No, that everything that humans encounter, whether it's an idea, it's a thought, it's anything that they encounter, it's been transmitted into them through an outer space, an outer being. My favorite director, Christopher Nolan, made this film, Interstellar, which is one of my favorite films, where they are constantly referring to certain beings as they. They are communicating, they are talking to us, they are doing this, but they never really clarified who they were. Like, were they aliens, were they gods, who they were? And Sadhguru, like this, I think I felt it in, like when any creative idea comes to me, it has absolutely no intellectual grounds where I can go back and track it down. It's literally like a mail dropped in my head. It seems like it's from an outside space.
This is not a confession.
I know it's a confession, but Sadhguru, is it that we are being operated by an external, sort of outside beings? Is it that?
Well, people who have no faith in human intelligence are looking up that intelligence will come from somewhere else. What we need to understand is, see, there are certain things which are very significant things in this country which unfortunately this present generation has completely forgotten or very few people are reminded, and the rest of the world, some places they recognize, rest of the places it's not there. What the thing is just this. Here we consider things like this. For example, in yoga, we call your spine the center of the universe. We call it Merudanda. That means it's the axis of the universe. What is a universe? Please understand this. Today scientists are admitting it is an endless universe. Forever they said, if you travel this many million light years, you will reach the end of the universe. But now they're admitting it's an endless universe. Forever we've been saying it's an ever-expanding universe. So we said, your spine is the axis of the universe. That sounds ridiculous. Even without putting any load, most people's backs are hurting badly. They can't even walk or run or do anything. If this becomes the axis of the universe, what will happen? Why we are saying this is, see, you know there is a universe or you think there is a universe only by your experience, isn't it so? If you did not experience, if you could not see this, if you could not see like this and feel like this, you wouldn't know there is a universe. Only because of your experience, there is a universe. And the center where your experience is being transmitted is through your spine. If you cut a few wires in your spine, you will have no experience even of the body, forget about the universe. So because your ability to experience the universe is rooted and centered in your spine, we are calling your spine as the axis of the universe. Suppose this hall, see now we know the boundaries of this hall. Now we can debate whether this is the center of this hall or that is the center of this hall. Suppose there are no boundaries to this hall. How would you decide which is the center of this hall? Where you are is the center of the hall, isn't it? From this basis, we developed a whole possibility for a human being, how not just to believe these things, but to make it into a living experience. It is from this the word yoga came, that the inclusiveness happens not because I tell you, oh, I love you, you love me and all this stuff. Inclusiveness happens simply because you obliterate the boundaries of your individuality. Not because I love you, you love me, I hug you, you hug me, so because we're inclusive, no. All that will last for some time. Tomorrow if they do something that you don't like, it'll be finished. But you obliterate the boundaries of your individual nature, including your body, that you know how to sit here without being identified with the boundaries of who you are. Your physical structure, your mental structure, your emotional structure has a boundary. It may be large or small. No, I'm not talking about the body being large. It may be large or small, but it has a boundary. But there are dimensions which have no boundary. What doesn't have a boundary is non-physical in nature. So our focus has always been on that dimension, which is non-physical. That is why Shiva became the most important thing, because Shiva means that which is not, that which is non-physical. Now is he the yogi that we're talking about, is he a human being? Did he come from somewhere else? There are many things this audience need to be primed for this, because it's a long story you're asking. I'm trying to encapsulate it in 2 minutes, that's dangerous because it'll look silly. There is a book, Arundhati is here, we spoke together and she kind of put it together. And there's a book on Adiyogi, which is going into these aspects, but let me put it across. See, there are things, as you said, there is no parentage. When you talk about Shiva, there is no parentage, there's no place of birth, nobody saw him as a young boy to grow up. All the time when we saw him, he was about the same age. And we don't know where he died, such a significant human being. Even in those times, if he died somewhere, they should have built a temple, they should have built some kind of a monument for him. Nothing like that happened. So there is no birth, there is no death, there is no parentage, there is no siblings, there is no anything to prove that he was here. Does it mean to say we can assume he came from somewhere? Not necessarily. But in many of if you look at the lore, it's very common to refer to Shiva as Yaksha Swarupa. This means, Yakshas means always those kind of beings which are not human, but who supposed to have existed in the natural environment in this planet, in the forests and other things. Whatever we were referring to, some kind of beings or creatures or whatever you want to call them, who are not human in nature. So many times in the lore, you will see any number of songs and other things talking about Shiva as a Yaksha Swarupa. So there are many things which point, but there is no specific proof that he came from elsewhere. One thing is the level of intelligence in terms of his mathematics, his music and his geometry, what he thought in terms of that. When you look at it, the times that we are referring to, see, in the yogic culture, let me admit this in front of this crowd because, oh my God, there are cameras. In the yogic lore, it is estimated Shiva or Adiyogi existed as a person. He walked this land somewhere between 60 to 75,000 years ago. When I first spoke this, all the more sensible people around me, who are not as naive as me, they're wiser people, younger people, they said, Sadhguru, if you say 75,000, they will blast you. The only archaeological proof that is there that Adiyogi or Shiva existed is about 12,600 years. You should say 12,600 or 13,000 or 14,000. I said, okay, 15,000. But actually, in the yogic lore, there is a clear aspect of… they're talking about celestial arrangements. These celestial arrangements, if you go by the modern astronomy, they existed only somewhere between 60 to 80,000 years, in that span. There is no two ways about it, the things that he's talking about. And now, of the Cambay, what's it called? What is the Indian name for that? I'm sorry. Kumbat, is it? Yeah. Of the Gulf of Kumbat. Now they've done explorations, they actually went there to clean up the plastic. But then they found a city which is 5 square miles. And now international archaeologists from… especially from Germany and France, they have dated this according to carbon dating process, that it is a minimum of 32,000 years. 32,000 years ago, nowhere on this planet did a city exist. Not just a city did not exist, the idea of a city did not exist. But they had a city which is 5 square miles in size, properly, orderly way of doing things. It's been buried, they're estimating it has gone underwater for about 9,000 years. And similarly, of course, everybody has heard about Dwaraka. There are excavations which unfortunately now is the line of control between India and Pakistan, you can't touch it. If you dig, something else will happen, you'll hit the mines. So, there is enough proof today, archaeological proof to say, over 30,000 years ago, there was a civilized society here. Maybe not across the country, but in pockets it existed. So, this dating goes back like this, so I'm just saying over 15,000 years, so that when I travel west also I look sensible. Okay, 15,000, all right. 75,000, they'll resist because their idea of the world is only 3,000 years old. They said everything happened in 6 days and it's only 3,000 years old. Anything beyond 3,000 years is not scientific. This has been the approach, unfortunately. Now slowly they're correcting themselves without looking stupid, but it's utterly stupid. For all these centuries you insisted it's only 3,000 years, now you're slowly extending it because science comes and says something else. You will watch it in the next 50 years, science will come and say… modern science will come and say many things which we have been talking for thousands of years.
So, Sadhguru, Einstein said that time doesn't exist, but we seem to… somehow we are stuck in it. And you say that space took a cyclic turn and that's how we're stuck in time. Is it only our bodies or our mind? I mean, how is it exactly like…
right now everybody's sitting here. Let's say we will make them sit here for next 10 days, just like this. Will they sit? No. Let's say we make them sit here for next 3 hours. Well, the body will keep time. If you forget also, suppose they're very interested in what we are saying and they forgot time mentally, the bladder will keep time. It will tell you when it's 3 hours for sure, isn't it? Your stomach will keep time. It will tell you when you're hungry and when it's time. So once you're embodied as a physical being, time is an essential factor of your life. And you know, in your experience, time is a relative experience, but in your body it is not so. It is keeping time all the time, because body is just a product of this planet and it keeps time. Right now, what is your idea of time? Planet spins like this, it's 1 day. Moon goes around, that's 1 month. Planet goes around the sun, that's 1 year. All our ideas of time is only because of the cyclical movement of physical nature. This is the nature of physicality. Physicality is always happening in cyclical movements. Whether it's an atom or the cosmos, everything is in cyclical movements. Without this cyclical movement, there is no physical existence. This is what we refer to in the yogic culture as samsara. Samsara means something that is going in cyclical movement. That means it is traversing the same path again and again, but makes you believe it is new all the time. So if you have a very short memory, you will see every time it comes, you experience it as new and you're excited about it. But if you have a very long vision of things, then you see the same thing is happening. The moment you see the same thing is happening, you will want to change it, isn't it? It is from this context, the idea of mukti or liberation comes up, because you see that you're stuck in the cycles of samsara, so the same thing is going round. Why is this happening? Because of our identity with physical nature, because we are so identified with the physical self that we are, now everything that we do also goes in cycles. Cycles means we are going round and round. You know, in English, the term, if I say you're going round and round, it means you're not getting anywhere. So, the word samsara has been misinterpreted and gone into use in variety of ways. For example, in Tamil, If you say samsara, it means wife. She keeps you going round and round. I don't know how that usage came, but today in Tamil language, if somebody says, my samsaram, you were supposed to understand it's his wife, not his cyclical nature.
Okay, Sadhguru, now my question is that, do you think, like you said, in the scheme of thing and like in going round and round in this cosmos, somebody like me, I sometimes feel that the things that I want to do and the things that I feel for, is it pompous of us to think that we can do something for others, or maybe, you know, like the spirit of…
If you want to do something for others, please be pompous as you want, please do something, because a lot needs to be done in this country.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so my almost second last question.
That's good, isn't it? I'm telling you to be pompous.
Okay, fine. I love being pompous anyway. so Sadhguru, I personally have read a lot of books about spirituality, and I've been following Swami Vivekananda from the age of 17, and I never really felt the need of a guru until I was faced with mortality. I lost a friend at the age of 25, and since then, I just feel that everything that I've done in my life, or every situation I've been into and I've walked into, I've always held my head very high, and I've always been prepared for it, I mean, as much I could. And I can't wrap my head around it. And when I read your book, I didn't instantly feel that I would be seeing this day. And I felt, okay, fine, I've read Buddha, I've read, like, you know, you're one of those enlightened people, yeah, sure. So… No, I wasn't impressed, let me tell you. But then I read, More Than a Life, and there is the mention of this yogi, Swami Nirmalananda, who waited for you all his life, and apparently you were supposed to guide him to Mahasamadhi. Now, Mahasamadhi is something that I've only heard of in stories and in myths and all of that, like where you willingly walk out of your body because you think that's the best thing to do at that point of time. Now that seems too fantastic. And I mean, looking at how our societies, like euthanasia has been being legal now, and the kind of resistance, like when your wife heard about the process, she showed extreme desire to adapt to that, and she acquired Mahasamadhi in the middle of like thousands of people. It's written elaborately in the book. And Nirmalananda was opposed by the government. You know, he was not allowed to be able to take Mahasamadhi.
The liberals.
Yeah, because apparently they were like, you can't take Mahasamadhi. And so, I mean, don't you think like we as people, we have stopped to discuss death, because shouldn't we be prepared for that day? And when I got to know that you can, I mean, since then I realized maybe you can help me someday. Like, I'm not saying now, but someday. But when the time comes, don't you think I should be ready for it? I should be dressed like this and be like, hey, come, let's go.
What do you mean come? Who has to come with you?
Like whoever comes at that point of time.
So…
Why is it pushed under the carpet? Why don't we talk about death?
It's not under the carpet, it's just that… That's why I said, all of us, we may call ourselves Indian, but our minds largely have become Western because our education is like that, and you do one thing in Mumbai, you go and just look at people below their knees. You will see at least 45% of the people are wearing only blue denims, okay? I'm not against it. I lived in it at one time for almost 7 years, 8 years. I wore nothing else but blue denims. It was like a philosophy, not just a clothing. So today that number has increased in a big way. It's American workman's clothes. It's spread around the world. And because workmen wore clothes which were… because of work, it wore out, you know. Our pants would wear out riding motorcycles, it would wear out, we would put a leather patch and this and that. But now people are buying pants which are torn, all right? Paying more for the tear, you also… So, why I'm saying this is, because of this imposition is not small. It's taken a huge footprint in everybody's mind. In this culture, we talked about samadhi. It's a very commonly used word, but unfortunately people think samadhi means it's a gravestone. No, samadhi means sama and di. Sama means equanimous, di means buddhi. If your buddhi or your intellect becomes equanimous, when we say equanimity, we need to understand this. The reason why you're using your intellect so extensively is because you've been trained to discriminate between this and this, between everything and everything. And we create… intellect is the thing which creates division between everything. For us to function physically in this world, I must know here which is me and which is you. I must know here what is a chair and what is a floor. Otherwise I won't know how to operate. So for practical purposes life, essentially for our survival, intellect is of paramount importance, no question about that. But this discriminatory dimension, if I ask you, I will leave her alone, okay? I will ask you, suppose there is a choice between having a sharp intellect and a dull or blunt intellect. What is your choice? You must choose, I'm going to bless you right now. Sharp. So essentially, intellect is a cutting instrument. It's a knife. The sharper it is, the better it is. It cuts everything. Why is cutting important? See, what is the nature of science that we learn today? If you went to a biology class, for sure, if you did not cut a frog or a cockroach, at least a flower you opened up. If you open up this flower, you will understand so many things about the structure of the flower, how it functions, everything, but you will not experience the flower because by the time you're done with it, it's finished. So if I want to know you, I think I must dissect you. I've come with my scalpel. You think by dissecting you, I will know you? By including you, I will know you. By embracing you, I may know you. But by dissecting you, I will not know you, isn't it? So the only instrument you have is a knife, and with that you try to do everything. I must tell you this. That was a time when I crisscrossed India on my motorcycle. It seems… where is woman Irani, is he here? They're bringing back Java once again into the country, I believe. Well, I rode probably the SD motorcycles like nobody. I was doing around 55 to 60,000 kilometers every calendar year, just riding across the country without purpose. So at that time, I don't know whether I was in Madhya Pradesh or I was in UP. The whole night I've been riding. Early morning, I come to a place and I want to have some tea and rest for some time. Then, I always fix my motorcycle on the street by myself. But I thought I saw a garage. It was named, handwritten, Mubarak Mechanical Works. I looked at Mubarak Mechanical Works and whole night I've been riding, I didn't want to dirty my hands now. It was a simple thing, I had to just tighten the chain, just take off one link and tighten the chain, that's all I had to do. I thought this guy can do it. So this young, very enthusiastic mechanic came out. And I said, why don't you just take off one link and tighten my motorcycle chain? Then he came out. Then I saw the only two tools that he had in his hand was a chisel and a hammer. Then I said, wait. Then I walked into his little shack of a mechanic shop and looked inside. There was no other tools, only one hammer and one chisel. With this he does everything. Once he works on your machine, nobody else can work on it anymore, it's finished. I said, okay, Mubarak, you don't touch my motorcycle like this. So right now, a whole humanity has become like this. The only instrument they have is a knife. With this knife they cut, it's an efficient tool for cutting. Now you want to stitch your clothes, you stitch with a knife. This is what has happened to the denims. If you do everything with a knife, everything will be in tatters and it's horrible, isn't it? That's all that's happening to us. We are trying to handle everything with one dimension of intelligence that we call as intellect. There are other dimensions of intelligence within us which is completely unexplored. So samadhi means to get your intellect to a state of equanimity so that it does not interfere in your perception of what really is the nature of existence. Right now, the only thing that's interfering in your life is your thought process, isn't it so? If I ask you to sit and meditate right now, you think somebody next to you is going to poke you? No, they are fine. It's your own mind, isn't it? People say they're depressed, people say they're agitated, somebody is manic, somebody is angry, somebody is miserable. No, all this is not happening. The only thing that's happening is your intelligence is turned against you. You're not getting it. You think you're suffering because of something. No, your intelligence is turned against you and nothing else. You have a knife and you don't know how to handle it. If you have a knife and you don't know how to handle it, you'll cut yourself up. Do you need any assistance from outside to make yourself miserable? You're very efficient, aren't you?
You and you told him the techniques. And when he was about to get there, apparently the government got involved and like, you cannot do that.
In 1996, he announced, I'm 74.
Samadhi for that, but why die before 25?
Suicide is not a pleasant thing. Not at all a pleasant thing, because for a human being to see, when somebody dies, commits suicide, we're just thinking, okay, he committed suicide. It's not like that. You must look at what psychologically that person goes through to come to that decision. It's the most horrible part of one's life, where somewhere they feel so trapped, either by physical situations, financial situations or emotional situations, so absolutely trapped when there is no other way. This is when they take that kind of violent exit, which we call as suicide. And if someone tries to kill somebody, that somebody has some defense. They can fight, they can run, they can protect themselves. Some resistance is possible. But when you start hurting this one, this is the most helpless life. And it is the worst kind of torture that you can do is to torture this one, because this is an absolutely helpless life with yourself, isn't it? Somebody else has some defenses. So suicide need not be seen in terms of statistics, 1 hour they're dying. Even if one person commits suicide, it's a human concern. It must be a concern for the whole humanity. Why is this happening? You must understand, in this country, in 2017, 7,600 children below 15 years of age have committed suicide. Below 15 years of age, when they must be bursting with life and wanting to live. Below 15 years of age, if they want to commit suicide, what is it? We are somewhere driving ourselves to a certain desperation. One big cause for all this is education system. Unfortunately, it's the schooling system which is killing people. Because if you get 98, you're no good, you know. People will ask you, where is the other 2%? So, apart from this, there are various other things, economic things are there, emotional things are there, various kinds of things for a human being. Essentially, simply because there is no clarity about life in some way. See, youth means, it's life in making. Youth, the most significant aspect of youth is they're full of energy, it's a huge amount of energy. When I say energy, after all, our life is a combination of a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of time, isn't it? Time is ticking away for all of us at the same pace, it's going away. If you sit here, it goes away, if you stand, it goes away, if you run, it goes away, if you don't do anything, it goes away, if you sleep also, it goes away. Time is rolling for all of us. It's only energy we can manage. If you organize our energies in a certain way, what somebody does in 100 years, you could do in 10 years. It is just organization of one's energies. So youth means an exuberant energy. But most of the time, the problem with the youth is they don't have the necessary clarity nor balance. If you could bring 10% more clarity and 10% more balance in their life than the way they are right now, this energy would translate into something fantastic. Because this is one thing we need to do, because as a nation, we are talking about our demographic dividend, where 50% of our population is below 30 years of age, which is a unique situation. And it's a fantastic situation only if we give the necessary clarity and balance and competence to our youth. Otherwise, we can be a major disaster. Such a large youthful population, without necessary clarity, without competence, without balance, they could be the biggest disaster on the planet. But if we organize this well, we could be the greatest miracle in the world. So we are making this effort, and I'm putting 1 full month of my time traveling across the country, speaking in various universities and causing a buzz about this among the youth, speaking a very youthful language. You will see a very different Sadhguru.
I know, you can…
Because I will dress differently, speak differently, do everything differently with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm very youthful.
Yeah. So my message to all the youth who are going to participate in this, you can ask Sadhguru all kind of questions, about monthly cycles, about sex, drugs, all the scandalous questions
They know all those things.
No, they don't. Sadhguru, they are being a victim of drug overdose. There are so many, drugs has become a big epidemic, especially in schools and colleges. So guys, I look forward to those conversations and ask exciting questions. Okay,
this is being pitched as Youth and Truth, unplug with Sadhguru. Ask whatever you want.
Ask whatever you want.
Nothing is a taboo.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru. I would like to bow down with all my knowledge and all my ignorance.
If you can hold the microphone, yeah.
Thank you.
It's quite safe, you can hold it close to you.
Is this okay? Yeah. So, first of all, I like to bow down with all my knowledge and all my ignorance. Like, I can't tell you how much you mean to me. So my question is very simple. Whenever I go to watch a movie, I'm given a place and I can see the screen in front of me, hear the voice coming from somewhere, and I can understand where I am. But when it comes to my life, I don't know where I see things, where I hear things. Every night when I go off to sleep, I don't know where I vanish, where I come back from. Something within me is seeing me pass by all that experiences that I have in my life. I've been seeing it, but I can't figure out where I am.
No, she's definitely not asking me. I have the same question in my life. Okay, this is the last question we answer. Yes.
So, when we say we have patterns, this is what we said in a certain way. They made a calculation and said, in 28,000 years, the moon will go so far that its impact on the planet will become minimal. When that happens,
For more updates,
please like,
share
and subscribe
to YOYO Times.